This is my friend and research buddy, Steve Barber. He is a PhD student at the Golisano Institute for Sustainability at RIT. We've been working together 3 years, 4 years?
Yeah, 3-4 years.
Something like
Seems
that.
a lot longer.
And he's going to talk about some of the work we've done on filtration.
Yeah.
Take it away, Steve.
Thank you, Kathleen. Thank you, everyone who's been fed. I know we have a lot of people out there who are still hungry. My name is Steve Barber. I'm a PhD student in sustainability at the Golisano Institute for Sustainability. What that means in Rochester, New York. So my background, I have a couple of science degrees from Cornell University, my undergraduate. I have a master's degree in finance. But then looking at how can we achieve, so the main research question that I'm looking at in terms of biochar is how can we achieve the 17 Sustainable Development Goals that the UN has come up with, that the world has come up with, and how can biochar play a role in that? So how can biochar help the world become more sustainable? So when we speak of sustainability, at least at RIT, where I'm at, we think about how can we take care of the present generation with an eye towards the 7th generation from now. So that we take that from the Seneca or Iroquois nation. Let's think about the 7th generation. So when we research biochar, we think of, okay, how can we enable sustainability for 7 generations from now? So how can we do right by us, but then do no harm? So my overall research question, again, is how biochar can help contribute to these Sustainable Development Goals. So the UN Sustainable Development Goals are the goals that from 2015 to 2030. So there's 17 of those goals. And in terms of biochar, we're looking at primarily at RIT goal number 12, which is responsible consumption and production. So responsible consumption and production of food in particular. So between Buffalo and Syracuse, we have a food production corridor, and it's a valuable and unique resource that we have. So what I liked about what Dr. Hoffman was talking about in his talk was that there's going to be winners and losers in this, the next 50 years. And actually the Finger Lakes region, or this ag region between Buffalo and Syracuse, New York, is going to be one of the winners. So the thing is that what we're most interested in is how can we be a sustainable winner? How can we be a responsible winner? How can we take care of the 7th generation? But also too, how can we achieve sustainable development goal number 8, which is decent work and economic growth? So unless we have this responsible consumption and food production goal, which is an excellent goal, but then how do we, and part of that actually is goal number 6. So my work is goal number 6, clean water and sanitation. So how can we produce food, which is what people need? We have a rising population. How can we keep clean water with sustainable goal number 6? But then how do we provide, the missing link here is how do we provide decent work and economic growth? So again, that's where I bring my background in finance and investments to bear under this question. And Dr. Lehman was spot on when he said, look, if we can't make biochar work for the farmer or hunt country vineyards, we can't make this work. There's only so much work that the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation can do. And that's what, before I forget, I want to encourage each and every single one of you. If you have a great idea, if you want to see something get off the ground, is that to work with a foundation, so this is when I was inspired by your talk this morning, is for New York State to pay for these carbon credits. I believe that New York State should partner with a foundation whose goal it is to exactly do that. But they're looking for a way to do it, a vehicle to do it, people who are actually going to do this. So you get them to pay for it. So perhaps, you know, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, if you approach them and said, look, we've modeled this carbon sequestration bill that's going through New York State, and it's going to cost basically, you know, $1.5 million per year. Just ask the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation for that money, because instead of the taxpayers, that's like win, 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 win. Because then we have private-public partnership, and they achieve the goals they want to achieve. New York State is like, look, we're going to do this, but it's not going to cost New York State taxpayers anything. You know, who wouldn't go for that? So I believe from the work that we've done that, and that's goal number 17 of the UN Sustainable Development Goals, is achieving these partnerships to actually achieve our goals. Instead of doing it yourself, be like, let's let the taxpayers pay for it. Let's foundations. There's billions of dollars in foundation money that can help pay for this, and they're just looking for a good idea to fund. So that's my humble suggestion, and you know, for that. And that's what the UN also came up with, is that the reason why malaria and some of these other terrible diseases that have affected the least developed countries, they didn't rely on taxpayer money to achieve those. They relied on foundation money, on private money, this private-public partnership to enable these things to happen. So let's lean on the foundations and the goodwill of corporations, which is their foundation arm, to achieve these goals. So again, back to what I'm doing, and Kathleen is kind of working with us, is we work with food producers in this corridor from Buffalo to Syracuse. We've developed, as Kathleen put, with the New York State Pollution Prevention Institute, we've developed a inventory of organic waste throughout New York State. And an inventory of organic waste that's like a gold mine. It's a gold mine of untapped resources that just need a home. For example, the Finger Lakes racetrack, just example after example. The buckwheat holes, how many 10 million pounds a week or something like that?
10 tons.
10 tons, you know, some crazy amount. 10 tons per week, right? So if they're producing 1.2 tons per day, you know, this is a valuable resource that we want to turn this into a value-added product. So our goal is, first of all, you don't know what you have until you know what you have. So we've done this inventory. It's an imperfect inventory, but it's still a good place to start. We have a graduate student, a master's student, who's kind of on the payroll, continuously updating that. If you know, this is on the New York State Pollution Prevention Institute website, which is a consortium essentially a consortium of universities in New York State to do this kind of work. So what I'm looking at myself is what's the best pathway for RIT, the Golisano Institute for Sustainability, what's the best pathway for these resources? So don't think waste, say resource from now on. Resource. You know, one man's trash is one man's treasure. So what I'm studying and the other researchers that I'm working with are, okay, we've got this inventory of food waste. It's from Syracuse to Buffalo. What is the best pathway for utilizing the nutrients or the value-added product inside these wastes, so to say? And my work is with biochar. So in particular, taking wastes that are dry wastes that are easily convertible over to biochar, and then using that as a replacement for granular activated charcoal. So granular activated charcoal is the stuff in your Brita water filter. It's like, wow, we can take metal ions from water. Well, same thing as biochar. So the difference between granular activated charcoal and biochar essentially is that biochar is unactivated. So we didn't add more energy to the biochar to make it activated charcoal. Yes. Okay. So So what I've been doing is I worked with Northern Soy. So Northern Soy is the largest tofu manufacturer on the East Coast. They're headquartered in Rochester, New York, right by the airport. And they have a effluent. So effluent is just wastewater, tofu whey. And they pay Monroe County $60,000 a year to dispose of that in the publicly owned treatment works. So our charge was, hey, what if we could take biochar, create a biochar adsorption system, so a filtration system, it's a fancy word for filtration, and then take that material and then give that off to a farmer. It's loaded with these soy proteins, and also to all the beneficial soil amendment properties of biochar, so the physical and the chemical, and then take this waste and then treat waste and then use it as a soil amendment. So this is what sustainability is. It's a vertically integrated system where we can be making money from it, we can be using waste, we can be treating waste from it, and then also too we can be creating, again going back to Sustainable Development Goal number 8, which is decent work and economic growth. So we want to create, these are the kind of jobs we want to create that are treating waste but also to make paying for themselves, more than paying for themselves. So we've had some, so we work with Northern Soy treating their waste. Kathleen and I are working on a paper right at this moment, not at this moment, thank God I had a day off. That's going to come out probably in the Journal of Cleaner Production, talking about this model, but linking these things. So the waste to treat aqueous waste, to then use as a soil amendment, to then create more high value added crop production, and looking at the economics from that. And I'm hoping that this could be a new paradigm for the way we consider wastes, and especially organic waste in food production. So thank you very much. Thank you. So we'll see. Don't clap yet. So we're gonna, it's tough editing, tough sledding.
We need a new paradigm.
We need paradigms, right?
We're not allowed to say waste.
What's that? No, it's no more waste, right? Say waste. A resource. So waste are now resources. And it's just a matter of what pathway. So the researchers that I work with, my other fellow colleagues, they look at anaerobic digestion. They said, okay, from this stream, we should put some here in anaerobic digestion. We should take some with biochar. We should do other things with it. And also, too, I worked with Burn Dairy in Syracuse. They're upgrading their waste treatment plant. And we looked at the economics of okay, let's build a bigger, they're expanding their plant, and they need to upgrade their wastewater resource treatment plant. So, okay, what if we can add biochar to that? And we've had very good results from both these. And what's bad about these food processors waste is that they have high biological oxygen demand and chemical oxygen demand. What does that mean? BOD and COD? It means eutrophication. So if we just dump the stuff into Seneca Lake here, it would kill off the fish, because as it oxidizes, as it breaks down, it takes oxygen from the water. That's why this material is bad. So it's not bad to us, and this is what we're looking at. It's not, we can drink this material from the burn dairy or from the tofu plant. We can drink it. People do. In Southeast Asia, they use it as a drink. But here in the United States, we're just like, we don't care. But we should start caring about the environment and the animals in the environment. And that's where I think, we can, at least, my team can add to taking care of the seventh generation, is taking care of the animals around us by treating this high biological oxygen demand material and then using it as a soil amendment and fertilizer. Questions?
Well, I just want to put a little more skin on the bone there. So one of the tests we did is with this tofu effluent. We then put it in a soil amendment for lettuce, basil, and tomato. And the results of putting 5% of this filtered biochar in the basil was a 60% yield increase, which was better than the unfiltered biochar. Can't remember the exact
It's a lot.
percentages. But I mean, it's a great way to utilize something in a cascading way. So you're reducing the cost of that soil amendment if you've already gotten money for it as a filtration medium. So that's
Correct.
what we're looking at right now.
Yeah, so in other words, it's a value added from the food producer because we're pre-treating their materials so they don't have to pay a fine, which I think fines are a good thing, because then it incentivizes people to get creative. And you know, when suddenly you hit with a tax, people suddenly wake up and like, God, what can I do to get around this tax? That's a good thing. And then, by the way, it's a good thing. Then we produce more tomatoes, basil, and lettuce, and we quantified, you know, what that production is. Question in the back.
Have you thought about the financial model of the paradigm shift and how you value the new assets?
Yes, correct. So we know how much the break-even cost is for a ton of or kilogram of the biochar compared to, you know, given that, you know, it's easy. It's actually quite easy. If you got to pay a $60,000 fine, you know, and they have this much water to treat, they better treat it for less than 1.3 cents per liter. That's it.
But also the other aspect is how are they currently doing the filtration if they could do it on site, and what are they using? So if they're using activated carbon, which costs $5,000 a ton, what kind of efficacy do we need to get with biochar,
Correct.
which isn't at the same 100% level,
Right.
but we haven't gone through the process of optimizing
It's worse.
the characteristics.
Right,
of
it's
the
worse.
Yeah,
So
I guess my point is even bigger picture. It's really on the industry. So whether it's soy or it's other organics, it's about the conversion of waste to resource in terms of the paradigm shift
Yes.
and value.
well, that's where I think.
Infrastructure to monetize that.
Well, that's where I think, you know, sustainable goal, development goal number 8, you know, decent work and economic growth. Then there's opportunity there for entrepreneurs to come in to do this as a service, to float between different producers in this corridor that we have, this ag corridor. Which, by the way, when we look at the Finger Lakes here, we have this ag corridor going around the lakes of spirits production, wine production, beer production. You know, this is just going to keep increasing. And there comes a point where this makes it, you know, people can make their living from this. So that's what I'm kind of hoping to spark with this as well. Question?
What you're coming around to hasn't been mentioned yet for the biochar newbies, that basically biochar is a huge opportunity to load it with nutrients, so
Correct,
that
yes.
you never want to put raw biochar into the soil, so that biochar is like an opportunity to filter, i.e.
Correct.
fill it with nutrients. So
Yeah.
please talk
So
about
to me,
that.
it's almost foolish to or irresponsible
Missed
to
opportunity.
to then, you know, have a value. That's what we say, value added. So it's valuable, but then we add value to it even more, and then we can quantify that value. And it's very simple because we know how much absorption capacity each one of these chars has, and we know how much these companies are paying. But that's the key part, is that we incentivize this by, you know, and this is the tough part that business owners don't want to hear, by having regulation. And I think we have to look to Europe for that regulation. Again, to take care of the 7th generation from now. So we internalize the external costs that food producers are, you know, putting out on society. Good.
Yeah, and I would just say that within the next 3 years, I think it is, there may be regulations at the state level to prohibit large-scale organics being sent to the landfill. So that includes food processors. I forget what the limit is, but it's something like 1 million pounds a week or something like that. So they are desperately looking for different things to do with it. So those people that are paying the tipping fees and are no longer going to be able to ship it to landfill are beginning to be interested in the potential of biochar, even if it's just to reduce the cost.
So the organics ban that Kathleen is referring to. So this organics ban, you know, is coming down the pipeline, and, you know, why not have biochar as a partial solution to that organics ban? Let's take some of that organic material, and, you know, it's not going to go to landfill, so can we pyrolyze it and then treat another waste with it and then incorporate it back into the soil, and then, like I said, you know, decent work and economic growth. How can we achieve these goals? Any last question? Yes.
Steve, this biochar, if you're using, suppose you have to grow something next year, so you'll again use new biochar, or it is sufficient for a couple of years?
That's, that's not my area of expertise. John can certainly answer that. My goal is really just looking at the food producers, the manufacturers, and solving a problem. If you can solve a problem for them, then you solve many problems. That's the way I look at it.
Because usually biochar, it works on porosity. Once its pores are blocked, then NPK or water
Yes.
retaining capacity, it would lose.
Yeah.
Then it becomes just a solid particle.
Yes.
Okay.
So the thing is that, I didn't want to, in the interest of time, I don't want to get too much into it, but surface area and porosity is really the main key part of it. So what's the porosity, but also too, what's the size, the pore size itself. So the other thing that we're looking at is that, different biochars with different pore sizes and different porosities are better at treating different effluent. Now, but that's getting, many years. Yeah, that's getting down the line, but we still have a lot to fill in at the front end, of acceptance of this, or even to consider this. But that's down the line. Yes.
I was going to say that, correct me if I'm wrong, but that higher temperature biochars are just generally better at absorbing.
Oh, absolutely. And the granule activated charcoal or activated carbons, maybe made out of coal. Those are more for gaseous phase. Those are better. The more energy we put into them, the better they are. The higher the surface area, the better the pore size distribution for whatever it is we're looking for. But again, from our perspective, we want to put in as least energy as possible. Again, we don't want to manufacture biochars. We want to keep them unactivated and with as little energy input as possible, to keep our carbon footprint as negative as possible.
Yeah, so just on that one, interestingly, how many different chars did we test for the tofu weight? Maybe 4 or 5?
Yeah.
So we looked at cherry pits, we looked at grapeseed extract, and then the one that had the best efficiency was one that a friend of mine made in his furnace out of hardwood. So it was really high temperature, and the woody biomass turned out for this particular effluent to be the most
even though it
efficient.
didn't have the highest surface area, it had a good porosity distribution. So again, for aqueous phase absorption, it turned out to be the best. But then we could have a worse biochar. So the other thing that we looked at is taking, for the tofu manufacturer, we made soybean curd residue biochar or Okara biochar. So they have an aqueous phase effluent. They've got a solid effluent. Hey, why don't we take the solid material waste that they have, make it into biochar to filter their own aqueous waste, and then give that to the farmer. So we looked at that. That wasn't hardly as efficient as the maple biochar, but maybe if we're creating tons and tons and tons of it, maybe it doesn't need to be that good at absorption. So the thing is, you're like, oh, it doesn't work. That's not that good. Forget that. But wait a second. But if we're producing it in volume and we can economically create it to turn it over to biochar, then maybe it is a good thing. So. All right, last question. All right, thank you very much.